Welcome to Mystery Manor Tales. I'm your host, Elias Thorne. If you're new here, we dive deep into classic whodunits inspired by the masters of suspense. Today, we're embarking on a brand new adventure, Poison in the Mirage Garden, a Hercule Poirot mystery in the timeless style of Agatha Christie. This is a long one, folks. Over 90 minutes of intrigue, twists, and that satisfying Poirot flair. Perfect for a cozy evening with tea in hand. Settle in, relax, and let the story unfold. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Mirage Manor. In the crisp autumn of 1925, Hercule Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective, sat in the plush confines of a first-class carriage on the Orient Express. This was not the famed route to Istanbul, but a more sedate journey from London to the verdant hills of Sussex. Poirot, his impeccably waxed moustache gleaming under the carriage's soft lighting, gazed out at the passing countryside, his sharp eyes reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. His mind, as ever, was abuzz with what he called his little grey cells, those tireless agents of deduction that had solved countless mysteries across Europe. Today, however, they were momentarily at rest, lulled by the gentle sway of the train and the anticipation of an unusual invitation. The invitation had arrived at Poirot's London flat 3 days prior, penned in the bold, flourishing hand of Sir Reginald Harrington, a wealthy industrialist known as much for his steel empire as for his eccentricities. The letter, written on heavy cream paper, embossed with a crest, requested Poirot's presence at Mirage Manor, Sir Reginald's country estate, for a weekend gathering. The stated purpose was vague, a matter requiring delicate discretion. But it was precisely this ambiguity that intrigued Poirot. Sir Reginald was not a man to waste words, nor was he one to seek help lightly. "Mon ami," Poirot murmured to himself, "what secrets does this Englishman hide behind his grand facade?" As the train wound through patchwork fields, Poirot reflected on what he knew of his host. Sir Reginald Harrington had amassed a fortune in steel and shipping, his mills fueling Britain's industrial might. Yet, whispers in London's drawing rooms spoke of a man whose wealth could not buy harmony at home. There were tales of family tensions, disputes over inheritance, strained relations with his wife, Lady Amelia, and rumours of a prodigal son, Arthur, whose gambling habits drained the family coffers. Poirot had also heard of Sir Reginald's latest obsession, a fantastical garden at Mirage Manor, dubbed the Mirage Garden for its labyrinth of mirrors, hedges, and optical illusions. It was said to be a marvel, a place where reality bent and twisted, much like the mysteries Poirot so loved to unravel. Poirot's thoughts drifted to his friend Captain Arthur Hastings, who had wired his regrets from London, detained by a minor ailment, but promising to join if the case grew dire. Poirot smiled faintly, picturing Hastings's earnest face and his unwavering belief in English fair play. "Ah, Hastings," he mused, "your heart would leap at the promise of such a puzzle, no?" For now, Poirot travelled alone, his only companions his keen intellect and a small leather notebook where he jotted observations. The train slowed, and soon a sleek motor car awaited at the quaint Sussex station. The driver, a young man with a deferential nod, whisked Poirot along a winding road lined with ancient oaks, their leaves ablaze in autumnal reds and golds. As the car crested a hill, Mirage Manor came into view, a grand Georgian edifice of pale stone, its windows aglow with the warmth of countless lamps. The driveway curved through manicured lawns, leading to the manor's imposing entrance, where Sir Reginald himself stood waiting. "Monsieur Poirot!" boomed Sir Reginald, a robust man in his 50s, with a ruddy complexion and a handshake like a vice. "Delighted you've come. Mirage Manor will astonish you, I dare say. And the garden, oh, the garden! A masterpiece of illusion, designed by the finest minds from Paris." His eyes gleamed with pride, but Poirot noted a flicker of unease beneath the bluster. Was it the weight of hosting, or something deeper? Sir Reginald ushered Poirot into a grand hall, adorned with portraits of stern-faced ancestors. Crystal chandeliers cast prisms of light, and the air carried the faint scent of polished wood and fresh roses. The drawing-room buzzed with the other guests, each introduced with a flourish by their host. Lady Amelia Harrington, Sir Reginald's wife, glided forward, her elegance undeniable in a gown of midnight blue, pearls shimmering at her throat. Yet Poirot's sharp gaze caught the faint lines of strain around her eyes, a silent testament to burdens unspoken. "A pleasure, Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice cultured but cool. "I trust you'll find our little gathering enlightening." Their son, Arthur Harrington, lounged by the fireplace, a cigarette dangling from his lips. In his mid-20s, he had the careless charm of youth, but his eyes darted restlessly, betraying worries he did not voice. Beside him stood his sister Evelyn, a vivacious young woman with bobbed hair and a flapper's penchant for bright lipstick. Her laughter filled the room as she chatted with Miss Clara Langford, a glamorous actress whose presence seemed to draw every eye. Miss Langford's smile was radiant, her gestures theatrical, but Poirot sensed calculation in her glances toward Sir Reginald. The household staff added to the tableau. Mr. Graves, the butler, moved with silent precision, his face an impassive mask as he offered sherry on a silver tray. His eyes, however, lingered on the guests as if committing every detail to memory. Mr. Thorne, the head gardener, was an unusual presence in the drawing-room, his burly frame and soil-stained hands at odds with the polished surroundings. "Mr. Thorne's here to tell you about the garden," Sir Reginald explained, clapping the man on the shoulder. "He's the genius behind its wonders." Over pre-dinner sherry, Sir Reginald held court, his voice carrying over the clink of glasses. "The Mirage Garden is unlike anything in England," he declared. "Mirrors create false paths, hedges conceal secret doors, and the central pavilion, my private retreat, is a marvel of glass and iron, locked tight to keep my treasures safe." He paused, a gleam in his eye. "Including a rare poison dart frog extract from South America, kept under lock and key in my study. Purely for scientific curiosity, of course." Poirot's interest sharpened. Poisons were a dark thread in many a mystery, and their mention was rarely innocent. He sipped his sherry, noting the reactions around him. Lady Amelia's fingers tightened on her glass. Arthur stubbed out his cigarette with undue force. Evelyn's laughter faltered. Miss Langford leaned closer to Sir Reginald, her smile unwavering, while Mr. Graves's gaze flicked toward the study door. Mr. Thorne, meanwhile, muttered something about the garden's upkeep, his tone gruff. As the group adjourned to the terrace overlooking the Mirage Garden, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and violet. The garden stretched before them, a labyrinth of shimmering mirrors and towering hedges that seemed to shift in the fading light. Lanterns cast flickering shadows, and the mirrors reflected distorted images, guests appearing twice, thrice, or not at all. The central pavilion, a glass-domed structure at the garden's heart, gleamed like a jewel, its iron door glinting with a heavy lock. Poirot's eyes traced the paths, noting how the mirrors created illusions of endless corridors or sudden dead ends. "A garden of deception," he murmured half to himself. It is how you say, a perfect stage for a crime." Sir Reginald laughed, clapping him on the back. "Always the detective, eh? Come, let's dine. No crimes tonight, only good company." The party moved to the dining room, where a sumptuous feast awaited: roast pheasant, fine Bordeaux, and delicate soufflés. Yet, beneath the sparkle of crystal and silver, Poirot sensed undercurrents of tension. Whispers reached his ears. Arthur's sharp words to his father about money, Lady Amelia's quiet aside to Miss Langford about unbearable pressures, Mr. Thorne's grumble about the garden's sanctity. Even Mr. Graves, serving with mechanical precision, seemed to listen too intently. As the evening drew to a close, Sir Reginald announced a midnight tour of the garden for those inclined. "The mirrors are at their best under moonlight," he said, his voice rich with enthusiasm. Most declined, citing the chill, but Poirot joined, his curiosity piqued. The garden was a spectacle, mirrors reflecting stars, hedges looming like silent sentinels. "At the pavilion, sir." Reginald paused, key in hand. "My sanctuary," he said softly. "No one enters but me." He smiled, but Poirot noted a shadow in his eyes. The guests dispersed to their rooms, leaving Poirot to ponder the evening's impressions. The Mirage Garden, with its tricks and secrets, felt like a metaphor for the household itself, beautiful, complex, and hiding truths in plain sight. As he retired to his room, the detective's mind buzzed. Something is amiss, he thought, adjusting his tie in the mirror, and Hercule Poirot will uncover it. Chapter 2. The Garden's Deadly Secret. The evening at Mirage Manor had unfolded with the elegance expected of Sir Reginald Harrington's hospitality. The dining room, aglow with candlelight, had been a stage for a feast of roast pheasant, creamy potatoes, and a rich Bordeaux that warmed the guests against the autumn chill. Hercule Poirot, seated at the long mahogany table, observed the gathering with his usual meticulous care. The crystal chandeliers cast prisms across the faces of the diners, but beneath the sparkle, Poirot sensed discord, like a discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. Sir Reginald, at the head of the table, dominated the conversation with tales of his travels to South America and the Far East. His voice boomed, recounting the acquisition of his rare poison dart frog extract, now locked in his study. "A marvel of nature," he declared, "but deadly in the wrong hands." His laughter filled the room, but Poirot noted the reactions it provoked. Lady Amelia, his wife, toyed with her pearl necklace, her smile tight. Arthur, their son, stared into his wineglass, his jaw clenched. Evelyn, the vivacious daughter, giggled nervously, her eyes darting to Miss Clara Langford, the glamorous actress, who leaned forward with a theatrical gasp, her hand brushing Sir Reginald's arm. Mr. Graves, the butler, served with silent precision, his face unreadable, while Mr. Thorne, the gardener, sat stiffly, an outsider among the finery, his hands folded tightly as if restraining some unspoken grievance. The conversation turned to the Mirage Garden, Sir Reginald's pride and joy. "It's a triumph of design," he boasted. "Mirrors create false paths, hedges hide secret doors, and the central pavilion, my sanctuary, is locked tighter than a bank vault. You'll see it at its best tonight, under the stars." Poirot's interest sharpened. The garden's illusions intrigued him, not just as a marvel, but as a potential stage for deception. He sipped his wine, noting Arthur's subtle eye-roll and Evelyn's quick glance at Miss Langford, who praised the garden with exaggerated enthusiasm. "It's positively magical, Sir Reginald," she purred, her voice carrying a hint of something Poirot couldn't yet place. Flirtation, perhaps, or calculation. As the meal concluded, Sir Reginald proposed a moonlight stroll through the garden. The air was crisp, the sky a velvet canvas studded with stars. Lanterns flickered along the paths, their light caught and twisted by the garden's mirrors, creating ghostly duplicates of the guests. The hedges, meticulously trimmed, loomed like silent sentinels, guiding the party toward the central pavilion, a glass-domed structure that gleamed like a beacon. Its iron door, secured with a heavy lock, was accessible only by Sir Reginald's key. "My retreat," he said, patting the key in his waistcoat pocket. "A place to think, to dream, away from the world's noise." Poirot noted the reverence in his tone, but also a flicker of unease in his eyes, as if the pavilion held more than just solitude. The group wandered the garden, marvelling at its tricks. Mirrors reflected false paths, making it seem as though one could step into another world, only to find a dead end. Evelyn laughed, spinning before a mirror that doubled her image, while Arthur lagged behind, lighting another cigarette, its glow a tiny ember in the dark. Lady Amelia clutched her shawl, her gaze distant, while Miss Langford clung to Sir Reginald's arm, her laughter echoing. Mr. Thorne pointed out rare plants, his voice gruff but proud, though Poirot caught him glancing at the pavilion with a scowl. Mr. Graves, ever the shadow, trailed the group, his eyes scanning the paths as if searching for something or someone. As the hour grew late, Sir Reginald announced he would retire to the pavilion for a nightcap, a habit he indulged in solitude. "The best way to end the day," he said, unlocking the door with a flourish. "No one disturbs me here." The iron door clanged shut behind him, the lock clicking with finality. The guests dispersed, some to the manor, others lingering on the terrace. Poirot, however, remained, his senses alert. He had overheard fragments of tension during the evening. Arthur's heated exchange with his father about debts, Lady Amelia's hushed words to Miss Langford about unbearable strains, Mr. Thorne's mutterings about ruined plans for the garden, and Mr. Graves's unusual attentiveness to the pavilion's direction, his tray of drinks forgotten as he watched Sir Reginald depart. The night passed quietly, or so it seemed. Poirot, in his guest room, made notes in his leather-bound journal, sketching the layout of the garden from memory. The mirrors, the hedges, the locked pavilion, they formed a puzzle, and Poirot loved nothing more than a puzzle. He slept lightly, his mind turning over the evening's impressions, the undercurrents of discord that rippled beneath the manor's polished surface. Dawn broke with a scream that shattered the morning's calm. It was Mr. Thorne, the gardener, his voice hoarse as he shouted from the garden. Poirot, already dressed, hurried to the scene, his cane tapping briskly on the flagstones. A small crowd gathered near the pavilion, Lady Amelia, pale and trembling, Arthur dishevelled, Evelyn clutching her robe, Miss Langford, her face a mask of shock, and Mr. Graves standing rigidly, his eyes fixed on the glass dome. Mr. Thorne, his hands still dusted with soil, pointed to the pavilion's window. "He's there! Sir Reginald! He's dead!" Poirot approached, his gaze sharp. Through the glass, he saw Sir Reginald slumped over a desk inside the locked pavilion, a shattered teacup on the floor beside him. Foam flecked his lips, his eyes staring blankly. The door remained locked, the key still in Sir Reginald's pocket, as Mr. Graves confirmed after fetching a spare. No windows were open, the glass dome was intact, its panels sealed. The pavilion was a fortress, yet death had breached it. Poirot entered, his movements precise. The air inside was heavy with the scent of Earl Grey and something acrid, almost imperceptible. The teacup's remnants held traces of a liquid that was not merely tea. Poison, Poirot suspected. Likely the frog extract Sir Reginald had boasted of. But how had it been administered? The pavilion was a locked room, its door untampered, its key unused by any but the victim. No footprints marred the dew-damp grass outside, save those of the morning's discovery. Guards, hired for the weekend, swore no one had approached the pavilion after Sir Reginald entered. It was an impossible crime, a challenge to Poirot's little grey cells. The local police arrived, led by Inspector Japp, a familiar face from Scotland Yard. "Another locked room, eh, Poirot?" Japp said, scratching his head. "You've a knack for these." He deferred to the detective, knowing Poirot's reputation. The suspects gathered in the drawing room, their faces a gallery of shock, grief, and, Poirot noted, possible deceit. Lady Amelia dabbed at her eyes. Arthur lit another cigarette. Evelyn clung to Miss Langford, who murmured comforting words. Mr. Thorne stood apart, his fists clenched, while Mr. Graves hovered, his composure fraying at the edges. Poirot's mind raced. The poison, the locked pavilion, the garden's illusions, they pointed to a meticulously planned crime. But who among this cast of characters had the motive, the means and the cunning to execute it? "This is no ordinary murder," Poirot murmured, his eyes scanning the group. "It is a performance staged in the Mirage Garden, and Hercule Poirot will uncover the director." Chapter 3. Shadows of Suspicion. The morning after Sir Reginald Harrington's death cast a pall over Mirage Manor. The crisp Sussex air did little to dispel the tension that hung like fog in the grand drawing-room, where the household and guests had gathered. Hercule Poirot stood by a tall window, his silhouette sharp against the pale light, his eyes scanning the assembled group with the precision of a jeweller inspecting a flawed gem. The suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves and Mr. Thorne, sat or stood in uneasy silence, their faces a tableau of grief, fear, and something less definable. Inspector Japp, bustling in with his notebook, muttered about a devil of a case, but deferred to Poirot, knowing the Belgian's knack for unravelling the impossible. Poirot began his investigation with the meticulous care that had made him a legend. "Mes amis," he said, his voice calm yet commanding, "a crime has been committed, one most ingenious. A man is dead in a room, locked from within, poisoned by a substance rare and deadly. Hercule Poirot will uncover the truth, but I require your cooperation. Each of you will speak with me, alone." His moustache twitched slightly, a sign his mind was already piecing together the puzzle. First, Poirot interviewed Lady Amelia Harrington in the library, its shelves lined with leather-bound volumes that seemed to absorb sound, lending an air of secrecy. Lady Amelia, still elegant in mourning black, sat rigidly, her hands clasped tightly. "Monsieur Poirot," she began, her voice steady but strained, "my husband was not a perfect man. Our marriage? It had its challenges." She admitted to rumours of Sir Reginald's affairs, including whispers about Miss Langford, whose presence at the manor had caused friction. "I loved him once," she said, her eyes glistening, "but his betrayals wore me down. Still, I was in my room all night. I could not have done this." Her motive was clear: freedom from a strained marriage and a substantial inheritance. Yet her alibi seemed solid, corroborated by a maid who saw her retire early. Poirot noted the tremor in her hands, grief or guilt. Next he spoke with Arthur Harrington in the billiard room, where the young man paced, a cigarette burning forgotten between his fingers. Arthur's boyish charm was overshadowed by agitation, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. "Father and I argued," he confessed, "about my debts. Gambling, you see. It's a weakness. He threatened to cut me off, leave me nothing. His voice cracked, but he insisted I'd never kill him. I was in the card room with Clara, Miss Langford, until late. Poirot's eyebrows rose. An affair, perhaps, complicating the motive? Arthur's debts, Poirot calculated, ran into thousands, and Sir Reginald's death would secure his inheritance. But the card room was far from the pavilion, and witnesses confirmed Arthur's presence there. A convenient alibi, or the truth? Evelyn Harrington, interviewed in the conservatory amid blooming orchids, was a whirlwind of nervous energy. Her bobbed hair bounced as she spoke, her hands twisting a silk scarf. "Father disapproved of my fiancé, Tom," she admitted, her cheeks flushing. "He's a painter, not rich enough for father's tastes. He threatened to disinherit me if I married him." Her eyes filled with tears. "But I was asleep when it happened. I swear it." Poirot noted a vial of liquid in her handbag, glimpsed when she reached for a handkerchief. Medicine, she claimed, for nerves. A potential clue or a red herring? Her motive, defiance of her father's control, was strong, but her room's distance from the garden made her involvement unlikely, unless she had an accomplice. Mr. Graves, the butler, met Poirot in the pantry, his domain of polished silver and neatly stacked china. His face remained a mask of professionalism, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. "I served Sir Reginald's tea yesterday," he said, "but it was prepared in the kitchen, untouched by me after that." Poirot pressed him, sensing resentment beneath the surface. Graves admitted to years of underpayment and slights from Sir Reginald. "He treated me like furniture," he said quietly. "But murder? No, sir." His motive, long-simmering resentment, was plausible, and his access to the tea made him a suspect. Yet he claimed to have been clearing the dining room when Sir Reginald retired to the pavilion, a claim the maids partially confirmed. Mr. Thorne, the gardener, was interviewed in his shed, surrounded by tools and pots of rare plants. His burly frame seemed out of place in the delicate task of tending flowers, but his passion for the Mirage Garden was evident. "Sir Reginald was ruining it," he growled, "tearing up my rare specimens for more of those blasted mirrors." His argument with Sir Reginald the previous day had been overheard, a heated exchange about the garden's future. "I'd have left before I'd kill him," Thorne insisted, but his knowledge of the garden's secret paths and his access to toxic plants, some resembling the frog extract's effects, made him a person of interest. His alibi, tending plants far from the pavilion, was uncorroborated. Finally, Poirot spoke with Miss Clara Langford in the music room, where a grand piano stood silent. The actress was a vision in a silk dress, her smile practiced but faltering under Poirot's gaze. She denied any affair with Sir Reginald, but admitted borrowing money from him to fund a failing theatre production. "He was generous," she said, "but demanding. I owed him, yes, but I was with Arthur playing cards that night." Her charm was undeniable, but Poirot sensed deception in her shifting stories. Was her debt a motive for murder, or merely a distraction? With interviews concluded, Poirot returned to the pavilion, Inspector Japp trailing behind. The glass-domed structure was as impregnable as ever, its lock untampered, no secret entrances visible. The poison was confirmed as the frog extract, missing from Sir Reginald's study, its vial found empty under his desk. Poirot examined the scene. No footprints beyond the morning's discovery, no signs of forced entry. The teacup's shards held traces of the poison, but how had it been delivered? The pavilion's vent, high in the dome, was too small for entry, and the guards swore no one approached after Sir Reginald locked himself in. Poirot paced the garden, his cane sinking slightly into the soft earth. The mirrors reflected his image in dizzying arrays, creating false Poirots that vanished as he moved. Could the garden's illusions hide a killer's approach? He found a single clue. A faint scuff mark near the pavilion's door, not a footprint but a disturbance in the dew. A red herring, perhaps, or a hint of something more. The garden's paths twisted, mirrors creating false exits and entrances. Poirot's mind churned. Could a mirror have concealed a figure, making them appear elsewhere? An alibi built on illusion? As the day wore on, cracks appeared in the suspect's stories. A footman recalled seeing Arthur near the garden's edge, despite his cardroom alibi. Evelyn's vial raised suspicions, though she insisted it was harmless. Lady Amelia's maid mentioned her mistress pacing late at night. Mr. Graves had been seen lingering near the study where the poison was kept. Mr. Thorne's shed held tools that could craft false clues. Miss Langford's theatre background suggested a flair for staging. Poirot gathered the group for a brief update, his voice measured. "The truth hides in this garden," he said, "but Hercule Poirot sees through illusions. We will reconvene soon." The suspects exchanged glances, some defiant, others fearful. Poirot's eyes gleamed. He was closing in, but the puzzle was far from solved. Chapter 4. Mirrors and Misdirection. The second day at Mirage Manor was heavy with unease, the air thick with the scent of rain and suspicion. Hercule Poirot, his cane tapping rhythmically on the garden paths, moved through the Mirage Garden like a chess master studying a complex board. The mirrors, glinting in the muted light, reflected his image in countless distortions. A fitting metaphor for the tangled web of truth and lies he sought to unravel. The locked pavilion, where Sir Reginald had met his end, stood at the garden's heart, its glass dome a silent sentinel. Inspector Japp, trailing Poirot with a notepad, muttered about the case's complexity. "It's a right mess, Poirot. No footprints, no entry, and that poison. How'd it get in there?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Patience, mon ami. The truth hides, but it cannot escape Hercule Poirot." Poirot's morning had been spent sifting through the initial interviews, each suspect's story revealing motives but no clear path to the crime. Lady Amelia's strained marriage, Arthur's debts, Evelyn's forbidden love, Mr. Graves's resentment, Mr. Thorne's grudge, and Miss Clara Langford's financial entanglement all pointed to reasons for murder. Yet the locked pavilion remained an enigma, its iron door untampered, its key found in Sir Reginald's pocket. The poison, confirmed as the rare frog extract, had vanished from the study, leaving only an empty vial. Poirot's task now was to uncover physical clues, to separate the garden's illusions from reality. He began at the pavilion, circling its glass walls with meticulous care. The scuff mark he'd noted, earlier, near the door, was faint but deliberate. Not a footprint, but a disturbance in the gravel, as if something had been dragged or placed to mislead. Poirot knelt, his gloved fingers brushing the ground. "Curieux," he murmured. "A clue or a trick?" Nearby he found a single pearl bead, its luster matching Lady Amelia's necklace, half hidden in the grass. A careless drop or a planted distraction? He pocketed it, his mind turning over possibilities. Next, Poirot ventured into the garden's maze, where mirrors created false corridors and hedges concealed sharp turns. He tested the illusions, noting how a mirror could make a person appear to stand in one place while they moved elsewhere. A perfect alibi, he mused, if one knows the garden's secrets. At the gardener's shed, he found Mr. Thorne tending a bed of exotic plants, his hands caked with soil. Poirot's questions were met with gruff replies. "I was pruning roses last night. Thorne insisted. But Poirot spotted a curious item in the shed, a mould for shaping earth into a footprint-like pattern hidden under a tarp. For garden art, Thorne claimed, but his eyes flickered. A red herring, perhaps, designed to mislead. Returning to the manor, Poirot examined the study where the poison had been kept. The locked cabinet was intact, but a faint scratch on the lock suggested tampering. Mr. Graves, questioned again, swore he'd seen no one near the study, but his hands trembled slightly as he polished a tray. Poirot's gaze lingered on the butler, whose alibi of clearing the dining room was only partially corroborated. A maid recalled seeing Graves near the study door late in the evening, though he claimed it was to retrieve a forgotten decanter. In the drawing room, Poirot found Arthur smoking by the fireplace, his face pale. A cigarette butt, discarded in a flower bed near the maze, caught Poirot's attention. It matched the brand Arthur favoured. "I took a walk," Arthur admitted, "to clear my head after arguing with father." His presence in the garden, so close to the pavilion, weakened his cardroom alibi with Miss Langford. Poirot pressed further, uncovering a crumpled note in Arthur's jacket, scrawled in a hasty hand, "Meet me at midnight by the pavilion." Arthur claimed it was from Clara, arranging a card game, but the handwriting didn't match hers. Another false clue, or a genuine slip? Miss Langford, questioned in the music room, adjusted her story under Poirot's scrutiny. Her earlier claim of a platonic card game with Arthur shifted to a late-night rendezvous, though she insisted it was innocent. "We talked nothing more," she said, her actress's poise faltering. Poirot noted her theatre background. Could she have staged a scene using the garden's mirrors to create a false image? Her debt to Sir Reginald, she admitted, was substantial, and his death might erase it. "But I'm no killer," she protested, her eyes wide. Poirot smiled thinly. "The stage, mademoiselle, is a place of illusion, and so is this garden." Evelyn, encountered in the conservatory, was tearful, clutching the vial Poirot had noticed earlier. "It's for my nerves," she repeated, but permitted Poirot to examine it. The liquid was clear, odourless, not the frog extract but a common sedative. A red herring then, though her agitation suggested fear. "Someone's watching me," she whispered, glancing at the windows. "I heard footsteps last night, outside my room." Poirot's interest sharpened. Another crime in the making, or a ploy to deflect suspicion? Lady Amelia, re-interviewed in the library, admitted to losing a pearl bead from her necklace, but swore it was days ago. "I've been distracted," she said, her voice breaking. "Reginald's choices strained us all." Her mention of his affairs pointed again to Miss Langford, but Poirot sensed deeper secrets. A ledger in the study, overlooked earlier, revealed Sir Reginald had planned to revise his will, potentially cutting out Arthur and Evelyn. Did Lady Amelia know? Her alibi held, but her maid mentioned her pacing late, contradicting her claim of early retirement. Mr. Thorne's shed yielded another clue. A rare plant, its sap known to mimic the frog extract's symptoms. "For study, not harm," Thorne insisted, but his knowledge of toxins was undeniable. Poirot tested the garden's mirrors again, confirming a vantage point where a figure could appear to be elsewhere, reflected falsely. Could this explain the lack of footprints? He found a hidden latch in a hedge near the pavilion, leading to a narrow path known only to Thorne. "For maintenance," the gardener said, but Poirot's mind raced, access to the pavilion unseen. As the afternoon waned, the suspects grew restless, accusing one another. Arthur pointed to Graves, claiming he'd seen the butler near the study. Evelyn whispered of Clara's scheming with her father. Lady Amelia suggested Thorne's temper made him dangerous. Graves, tight-lipped, hinted at Arthur's debts driving desperation. Miss Langford accused Evelyn of jealousy over her father's attention. Thorne grumbled about everyone's interference with his garden. Poirot listened, his eyes gleaming. The truth, he said softly, is obscured by these accusations, like mirrors reflecting lies. A final clue emerged, a forged note found in the pavilion implicating Evelyn. "Father, I can't forgive you," it read, but the handwriting was clumsy, unlike her precise script. Poirot examined it under a magnifying glass, noting ink smudges suggesting haste. A deliberate plant meant to mislead? The garden's illusions seemed to extend into the manor, each clue a potential trap. Poirot gathered the group at dusk, his voice calm but firm. "The Mirage Garden plays tricks, mes amis, but so does the human heart. I am close to the truth, but more must be revealed." The suspects exchanged wary glances, the air thick with tension. Poirot's mind churned. The scuff mark, the pearl bead, the forged note, the hidden path. Were they clues to the killer, or mirrors reflecting false truths? The game, he thought, is one of misdirection, but Hercule Poirot sees clearly. Chapter 5. The Illusion Unravels. The third day at Mirage Manor dawned under a sky heavy with clouds, the air charged with the promise of rain and the weight of suspicion. Hercule Poirot, his coat buttoned against the chill, stood at the edge of the Mirage Garden, his eyes tracing the mirrors that reflected a fractured world. The locked pavilion, where Sir Reginald had met his end, loomed like a silent challenge, its glass dome clouded by the gathering storm. Inspector Japp, ever practical, hovered nearby, grumbling about the lack of clear evidence. "It's like chasing shadows, Poirot," he said, flipping through his notebook. "Every clue leads to a dead end." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Non, mon ami. The shadows are the key. They hide the truth, but Hercule Poirot will bring it to light." The investigation had reached a critical juncture. The suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves and Mr. Thorne, were fraying under the pressure. Their alibis and motives tangled like the garden's paths. The pearl bead, the forged note, the scuff mark, the hidden latch, and the footprint mold had deepened the mystery, each a potential clue or a clever misdirection. Poirot's morning began with a new urgency, spurred by a startling development that threatened to escalate the danger. In the breakfast room, Evelyn Harrington sat pale and trembling, a silver tray before her bearing a box of chocolates, her favourite, delivered anonymously that morning. She had eaten one before, noticing a bitter aftertaste, and, in panic, spat it out. Poirot, summoned by her cry, examined the chocolates with a magnifying glass. A faint residue on one suggested poison, similar to the frog extract that killed Sir Reginald. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, "a second attempt at murder." The household was shaken. Evelyn, now under a doctor's care, was unharmed but terrified. "Someone wants me dead," she sobbed. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Was this a killer covering their tracks, or a new motive emerging? Poirot questioned the delivery. The chocolates had arrived via a local boy, paid by an unknown figure in a hooded cloak near the village. No one in the household admitted sending them, and the box bore no distinguishing marks. This new crime shifted the investigation, suggesting the killer was still active, perhaps within the manor. Poirot's mind raced. Was Evelyn a target because she knew something, or was this another illusion to divert suspicion? He returned to the pavilion, re-examining the scene with fresh eyes. The hidden latch in the hedge, discovered near the pavilion, led to a narrow path that wound through the maze known only to Mr. Thorne. Poirot tested it, noting how it allowed unseen access to the pavilion's rear, where a mirror could conceal a figure's approach. A clever trick, he mused, but not enough to enter a locked door. The vent in the dome, too small for a person, intrigued him. Could it have been used to deliver the poison? He found a faint residue inside the vent, possibly from a vaporized toxin, but no mechanism to explain its delivery. In the gardener's shed, Poirot confronted Mr. Thorne again. The burly gardener was pruning a rare nightshade, its sap known to mimic the frog extract's effects. "For my collection," Thorne insisted, but his hands shook as he spoke. Poirot uncovered a vial of sap, hidden behind a stack of pots, its contents chemically similar to the murder weapon. "You knew of its properties," Poirot said, his voice sharp. Thorne admitted studying poisons, but denied using them. "I'd never kill him, even if he ruined my garden." His alibi remained shaky, his knowledge of the maze a persistent concern. Mr. Graves, the butler, was next, questioned in the pantry. His composure was cracking, his eyes darting as Poirot pressed him about the study's tampered lock. "I checked it that night," Graves admitted, "to ensure it was secure." But a footman reported seeing him linger near the study longer than necessary, contradicting his earlier claim. Poirot found a key in Graves's quarters, not for the pavilion, but for the study cabinet, suggesting access to the poison. "A servant's duty," Graves said, but his voice wavered. His motive, years of resentment, grew stronger, and his proximity to the poison made him a prime suspect. Arthur Harrington, interviewed in the billiard room, was evasive, his cigarette smoke curling like the garden's illusions. Poirot confronted him about the note found in his jacket, now confirmed as a forgery. "I don't know who wrote it," Arthur snapped, but admitted to a secret affair with Miss Langford, complicating his motive. "Father would have disowned me if he knew," he said. The cigarette butt near the maze placed him near the pavilion, weakening his alibi further. Was he spying or planning? Miss Langford, in the music room, leaned heavily on her theatrical charm, but Poirot's questions pierced her facade. She confessed to manipulating Sir Reginald for money, using her allure to secure loans, but murder, never, she protested. Her knowledge of stagecraft, however, suggested she could orchestrate a scene, perhaps using mirrors to create a false alibi. Poirot found a script in her room, annotated with notes on optical illusions eerily similar to the garden's design. Research for a play, she claimed, but Poirot's doubts grew. Lady Amelia, in the library, revealed a new twist. She had consulted a solicitor about divorce, a move Sir Reginald opposed. "He threatened to leave me nothing," she said, her voice breaking. The ledger Poirot found confirmed Sir Reginald's intent to revise his will, potentially disinheriting Arthur and Evelyn, but also reducing Lady Amelia's share. Her lost pearl bead near the pavilion remained suspicious, though she insisted it was accidental. Her pacing at night, reported by her maid, suggested sleepless worry or clandestine activity. The investigation took a dramatic turn when Poirot uncovered a hidden compartment in the pavilion's desk, containing a letter from Sir Reginald to his lawyer, outlining the will change. It was dated the day before his death, suggesting urgency. Had someone learned of it? The letter mentioned family betrayals, pointing to Arthur or Evelyn, but also hinted at a past grievance with a servant, possibly Graves. Poirot's mind churned. The chocolates, the forged note, The hidden path, the tampered lock, all pointed to a killer desperate to obscure the truth. As evening fell, Poirot tested the garden's mirrors again, confirming a vantage point where a figure could appear to be elsewhere, reflected falsely. He staged an experiment, asking Japp to stand at various points while he observed from the pavilion. The mirrors could indeed create a false image of Sir Reginald alive after his death, if timed correctly. A performance, Poirot said, staged to confuse the hour of death. But the poison's delivery remained the puzzle's heart. How had it entered a locked room? A final twist emerged. Evelyn reported a shadowy figure near her window the previous night, and a maid confirmed hearing footsteps. Poirot found a scrap of fabric caught on a garden hedge, matching Graves's uniform. Confronted, Graves claimed he was checking the grounds, but his story faltered. The suspects gathered in the drawing room, their accusations flying. Arthur blamed Clara's scheming. Evelyn pointed to Thorne's temper. Lady Amelia hinted at Graves's disloyalty. Poirot silenced them, his voice calm but firm. "The truth is close, mes amis, but the garden's illusions are many. Hercule Poirot sees through them." Chapter 6. Hidden Paths Revealed. The fourth day at Mirage Manor dawned under a persistent drizzle, the Mirage Garden's mirrors gleaming wetly, their reflections fractured by raindrops. Hercule Poirot stood beneath a black umbrella, his eyes fixed on the glass-domed pavilion where Sir Reginald had met his untimely end. The locked room mystery, with its poisoned teacup and untampered door, was a puzzle worthy of his little grey cells, and the attempted poisoning of Evelyn Harrington had raised the stakes. Inspector Japp, huddled in a raincoat, joined him, his frustration palpable. "This case is a maze, Poirot," he grumbled. "Every clue twists back on itself, like those blasted mirrors." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Précisément, mon ami. But a maze has an exit, and Hercule Poirot will find it." The investigation had grown more complex with each revelation. The suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Thorne, were entangled in a web of motives, inheritance, debts, forbidden love, resentment, and financial desperation. The clues, pearl bead, forged note, scuff mark, hidden latch, footprint mold, and poisoned chocolates, pointed to a killer skilled in misdirection. The garden's illusions, with mirrors creating false images and hedges concealing secret paths, seemed to mock Poirot's quest for truth. Yet he sensed the solution was near, hidden in the interplay of physical evidence and human deception. Poirot began the day by revisiting the garden's hidden path, discovered near the pavilion. The narrow trail, known only to Mr. Thorne, wound through dense hedges, its entrance obscured by a mirror that reflected a false dead end. Poirot traced its route, noting how it allowed unseen access to the pavilion's rear, where a cleverly placed mirror could make a figure appear elsewhere. "A stage for a killer," he murmured, testing the mirror's angle. The path ended at a concealed gate, locked but showing signs of recent use. Scratches on the latch suggested a key had been employed. Thorne, questioned again, admitted to using the path for maintenance, but swore he was nowhere near it the night of the murder. "I was in my shed, tending plants," he insisted, but his uncorroborated alibi and knowledge of the garden's secrets kept him in Poirot's sights. In the manor, Poirot turned to the poisoned chocolates, a bold attempt on Evelyn's life. The doctor confirmed the toxin matched the frog extract's properties, though diluted, suggesting a warning or a failed attempt. Poirot interviewed the kitchen staff, who recalled an unmarked package arriving with the morning delivery, unnoticed until Evelyn claimed it. The delivery boy, re-questioned, described the cloaked figure as tall and male, ruling out Miss Langford but implicating Arthur Graves or Thorne. Poirot's mind churned. Was the attempt meant to silence Evelyn or to cast suspicion elsewhere? The pavilion offered new insights. Poirot re-examined the teacup's shards, noting a faint seam in the porcelain, invisible to the untrained eye. Under a magnifying glass, he discovered a hidden compartment triggered by heat, designed to release its contents into the tea. "Mon Dieu," he whispered, "a teacup as cunning as the garden itself." The compartment held traces of the frog extract, confirming the method of delivery. But who had access to such a device? Poirot recalled Miss Langford's theatrical background. Stage props often used such mechanisms. Had she crafted this, or was it another's handiwork? Miss Langford, questioned in the music room, faltered under Poirot's piercing gaze. Her earlier claim of a simple rendezvous with Arthur shifted again. "We argued," she admitted, "about money. He thought I was using Father, Sir Reginald, for more than loans." Her theatre scripts, annotated with illusion techniques, included a diagram of a trick cup, eerily similar to the one in the pavilion. "It's for a play," she insisted, but Poirot noted her flushed cheeks. Her motive, erasing a debt through murder, was strong, and her stagecraft skills made her a formidable suspect. Yet her alibi with Arthur held, corroborated by a footman who saw them together. Arthur, confronted in the billiard room, was increasingly volatile, his cigarette trembling in his hand. Poirot presented the forged note found in the pavilion, implicating Evelyn. "I didn't write it," Arthur snapped, but admitted to knowing about the will change, which threatened his inheritance. A search of his room revealed a hidden ledger, detailing debts to unsavory lenders, some linked to blackmail. "Father was going to expose me," he confessed, "but I didn't kill him." The cigarette butt near the maze placed him near the pavilion, and the forged note's ink matched a pen in his desk. Was he framing his sister, or being framed himself? Lady Amelia, in the library, revealed a deeper layer of the family's discord. "Reginald was cruel," she said, her voice low. "He planned to disinherit Arthur and Evelyn, leaving most to charity." The ledger Poirot found confirmed this, but a second letter, hidden in a book, suggested Lady Amelia had pleaded with Sir Reginald to reconsider. "I wanted peace," she said, tears falling. Her pearl bead near the pavilion remained a puzzle. Accidental or planted? Her maid's report of late-night pacing suggested she might have ventured out, weakening her alibi. Mr. Graves, questioned in the pantry, was visibly shaken. The scrap of fabric from his uniform, caught on the hedge, placed him near the hidden path. "I patrolled the grounds," he said, but his story crumbled when a maid recalled him absent during his supposed rounds. Poirot found a second key in Graves's quarters, not for the study but for a garden shed, where a vial of nightshade sap, similar to Thorne's, was hidden. "I found it there," Graves claimed, "but I didn't use it." His motive, resentment over years of mistreatment, grew sharper, and his access to both the poison and the garden made him a prime suspect. Mr. Thorne, in his shed, was defensive, his hands stained with soil. Poirot confronted him about the nightshade sap and the hidden path. "I study plants, not murder," Thorne growled, but admitted knowing the sap's toxic properties. A journal in his shed detailed experiments with poisons, including a formula mimicking the frog extract. "For research," he insisted, but his knowledge of the garden's secret paths and his grudge against Sir Reginald's interference made him a strong candidate. Poirot found a mirror shard in the shed, etched with a pattern matching the pavilion's decor. Evidence of tampering, or another red herring? As the rain intensified, Poirot gathered the suspects in the drawing room, his presence commanding silence. "The Mirage Garden is a stage," he said, "and this crime is a performance. The teacup's trick, the hidden path, the forged note, all point to a mind skilled in deception. But Hercule Poirot sees the truth behind the curtain." The suspect shifted uncomfortably. Arthur's eyes darted. Evelyn clutched her scarf. Clara's smile faltered. Graves stood rigid. Thorne scowled, and Lady Amelia gripped her chair. Poirot's gaze lingered on each, his mind piecing together the puzzle. A final clue emerged. A groundskeeper reported seeing a shadow moving near the pavilion the night of the murder. Reflected in a mirror, but vanishing when approached. Poirot tested the mirrors again, confirming a vantage point where a figure could appear elsewhere, creating a false alibi. The teacup's compartment, he deduced, was activated by the tea's heat, releasing the poison at a precise moment. But who had placed it? The answer lay in the garden's illusions, and Poirot was close to unveiling the killer's sleight of hand. Chapter 7. Gathering Storm. The fifth day at Mirage Manor was cloaked in a relentless downpour, the rain drumming against the manor's windows like an impatient summons. Hercule Poirot stood by the drawing-room's fireplace, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill of suspicion that permeated the room. The suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Thorne, sat in a tense semicircle, their faces etched with unease as Poirot prepared to reveal his latest findings. Inspector Japp, leaning against a bookcase, watched with a mix of skepticism and anticipation. "You've got something up your sleeve, haven't you, Poirot?" he muttered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The sleeve, mon ami, is empty, but the mind, it is full." The investigation had reached a fever pitch. The trick teacup with its hidden compartment, the hidden path in the garden, the forged note implicating Evelyn, the poisoned chocolates, and the mirror shard in Thorne's shed had painted a picture of a crime meticulously planned. The attempted poisoning of Evelyn suggested a killer still active, desperate to cover their tracks or eliminate a witness. Poirot's morning began with a renewed focus on the human element, motives and lies, knowing the physical clues were but reflections of the heart's darker impulses. Poirot opened the gathering with a calm but commanding address. "Mes amis, the Mirage Garden is a place of illusion, but so too is the human soul. Each of you has a secret, a reason to wish Sir Reginald harm. Today, we peel back the layers of deception." The suspects shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting. Lady Amelia's hands clasped tightly, Arthur's cigarette trembling, Evelyn's scarf twisted in her fingers, Clara's smile strained, Graves rigid as stone, Thorne's scowl deepening. He began with Evelyn, addressing the forged note found in the pavilion. "Mademoiselle, the note accusing you was a fabrication," Poirot said, producing the crumpled paper. A handwriting expert, summoned by Japp, confirmed it matched no one in the household, but bore traces of ink from a pen in Arthur's room. Evelyn gasped, her eyes flashing to her brother. "You tried to frame me." Arthur shook his head vehemently. "I swear, I didn't write it." Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. "Then who, monsieur? The ink suggests a connection, yet the hand is not yours. A clever trick, non?" The room tensed. Someone had planted the note to divert suspicion, but who? Next, Poirot turned to Lady Amelia, presenting the pearl bead found near the pavilion. "Madam, You claimed this was lost days ago, yet it was found fresh in the grass, unweathered by rain. Lady Amelia's composure faltered. I don't know how it got there," she stammered. Poirot pressed further, revealing the letter she wrote to Sir Reginald, begging him to reconsider the will change. "You feared ruin," he said, "but did you act?" She shook her head, tears falling. "I only wanted peace for my children." Her maid's testimony of late-night pacing weakened her alibi, but the bead's placement suggested a deliberate plant. Another red herring. Arthur's turn came next, his agitation palpable. Poirot confronted him about the cigarette butt near the maze and the ledger detailing his debts. "Your father's new will threatened your future," Poirot said, "and your affair with Mademoiselle Langford. Did it drive you to desperation?" Arthur's face reddened. "I loved Clara, but I didn't kill him." The ledger revealed a blackmailer's name, a shadowy figure demanding payment for silence about Arthur's gambling. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Could the blackmailer be among them? Or was this another layer of deception? Miss Clara Langford, questioned next, wilted under Poirot's scrutiny. The script in her room, detailing a trick cup, was too similar to the murder weapon to ignore. "It's for a play," she insisted, but Poirot produced a letter from her theatre producer, threatening to expose her debts unless she paid. Debts tied to Sir Reginald. "You charmed him for money," Poirot said, "but did you kill to escape his demands?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm no murderer." Her theatrical skills, however, made her adept at staging illusions, and her alibi with Arthur was now suspect, as the footman's timing was vague. Mr. Graves, the butler, stood rigid as Poirot presented the scrap of his uniform caught on the hedge. "You were near the hidden path," Poirot said, "and a key to the garden shed, containing nightshade sap, was found in your quarters." Graves's voice was steady but strained. "I patrol the grounds, as is my duty. The sap, I found it, nothing more." His resentment towards Sir Reginald was undeniable, and his access to the study's poison cabinet made him a prime suspect. A maid's testimony placed him near the pavilion's edge before the murder, contradicting his earlier claim of dining-room duties. Mr. Thorne, the gardener, was last, his burly frame tense as Poirot revealed the mirror shard from his shed, etched with the pavilion's pattern. "You knew the garden secrets," Poirot said, "and the nightshade sap mimics the frog extract. Did you use it?" Thorne's scowl deepened. "I'd quit before I'd kill. Sir Reginald was destroying my work, but I'm no poisoner." His journal, detailing toxic plants, included a recipe for a sap-based poison, and his access to the hidden path made him a strong candidate. Yet, his passion for the garden seemed genuine. Would he risk it for murder? Poirot's mind churned as he paced the drawing room, the suspects watching him like prey awaiting a predator's move. The trick teacup he deduced was the key. Its hidden compartment, activated by heat, released the poison at a precise moment. But its placement required access to the pavilion before Sir Reginald locked himself in. The hidden path offered a way, but the mirrors could create a false alibi, making someone appear elsewhere. The poisoned chocolates suggested a killer still active, perhaps fearing Evelyn's knowledge. The forged note, the pearl bead, the cigarette butt, all were distractions, but one clue held the truth. A breakthrough came when Poirot re-examined the pavilion's vent. A tiny glass vial, lodged inside, contained residue of the frog extract, suggesting it was dropped through the vent, possibly with a timed mechanism. The mirror shard from Thorne's shed matched a missing piece from a garden mirror, angled to reflect Sir Reginald's image after his death, delaying discovery. A performance, Poirot murmured, staged with precision. But who was the director? He gathered new testimony from a groundskeeper, who recalled seeing a figure in a dark coat near the pavilion's hidden path, their face obscured. The figure's height matched Graves or Thorne, but not Arthur, who was shorter. Poirot tested the mirrors again, confirming a vantage point where a killer could approach unseen, their reflection masked by the garden's design. The storm outside mirrored the gathering tension. Accusations flew as Arthur blamed Clara's scheming. Evelyn pointed to Graves's secrecy, and Lady Amelia whispered of Thorne's temper. Poirot silenced the room, his voice calm but resolute. The Mirage Garden hides the killer, but not from Hercule Poirot. The teacup, the path, the mirrors, they tell a story, and I am close to its end. The suspects' faces betrayed fear, defiance, or calculation. Poirot's eyes gleamed. He was nearing the truth, but one final piece remained. Chapter 8. The Mirage Cracks, the sixth day at Mirage Manor, was marked by a fragile calm, the rain having subsided to a misty drizzle that clung to the windows like a veil. Hercule Poirot stood at the centre of the drawing room, his small frame commanding the space as the suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Thorne, sat in a tense circle, their eyes fixed on him. The air was thick with anticipation, the weight of Poirot's impending revelations pressing on them all. Inspector Japp, leaning against the mantelpiece, clutched his notebook, his expression a mix of impatience and trust in Poirot's methods. "You're building to something, aren't you, Poirot?" he said, his voice low. Poirot's moustache twitched. "Oui, mon ami. The mirage is cracking, and the truth will soon stand clear." The investigation had woven a complex tapestry of clues. The trick teacup with its hidden compartment, the hidden path in the garden, the forged note implicating Evelyn, the poisoned chocolates, the mirror shard, and the vial in the pavilion's vent. The attempted poisoning of Evelyn had raised the stakes, suggesting a killer desperate to silence a witness or muddy the waters. Poirot's mind, sharp as ever, had begun to align the pieces, each clue a thread in the intricate design of the crime. Today, he would pull those threads, unraveling the illusion that had shielded the killer. Poirot began with a dramatic flourish, holding up the trick teacup's shards, reconstructed to reveal its hidden compartment. "This, mes amis, is the heart of the murder," he said, his voice steady. "A teacup designed to release poison when heated, placed in the pavilion before Sir Reginald locked himself in. But who had the opportunity?" The suspects shifted, eyes darting. Poirot's gaze swept over them, noting Lady Amelia's clenched hands, Arthur's nervous puff on his cigarette, Evelyn's wide-eyed fear, Clara's strange smile, Graves's rigid posture, and Thorne's scowl. He turned first to the hidden path, a critical discovery. The garden's secret passage, known to Monsieur Thorne, allowed unseen access to the pavilion's rear, Poirot said, producing a sketch of the path's layout. A mirror, strategically placed, could conceal a figure's approach, creating a false alibi. He revealed the mirror shard from Thorne's shed, its etched pattern matching the pavilion's decor. "This shard," he said, "was part of a mirror used to project Sir Reginald's image after his death, delaying discovery." Thorne's face reddened. "I used it for repairs," he protested, but Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Repairs, monsieur, or deception?" Next, Poirot addressed the vial in the pavilion's vent, containing residue of the frog extract. "The poison was dropped through the vent," he said, likely with a timed mechanism, vaporizing into the air Sir Reginald breathed. But the vent is too small for entry, and the vial's placement required precision. He produced a diagram of the pavilion, showing the vent's position high in the dome. Only someone with intimate knowledge of the pavilion could execute this. The suspects exchanged glances, suspicion flaring. Graves, who had access to the pavilion's plans as butler, shifted uncomfortably, while Thorne's knowledge of the garden's layout made him equally suspect. Poirot then tackled the forged note implicating Evelyn. "This was a deliberate misdirection," he said, holding up the paper. "The ink matches a pen in Monsieur Arthur's room, yet the handwriting is not his. Someone sought to cast blame, knowing Evelyn's strained relationship with her father." Arthur's face paled. "I told you, I didn't write it." Poirot nodded. "Oui, but someone close to you did, perhaps to protect you, or to destroy you." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, her gaze flickering to Clara, whose theatrical skills could forge such a note. The poisoned chocolates, Poirot revealed, were a desperate act. "The toxin matched the frog extract but diluted," he said. "A warning, perhaps, to silence Mademoiselle Evelyn, who may know more than she realizes." Evelyn gasped. "I don't know anything." Poirot's expression softened. "Perhaps, mademoiselle, but the killer believes you do." The delivery boy's description of a tall male figure in a cloak pointed to Graves or Thorne, but Arthur's height was close enough to raise doubts. The scrap of Graves's uniform on the hedge, however, tipped the scales toward the butler. Poirot turned to Lady Amelia, presenting the pearl bead. "Madame, this bead was no accident," he said. "It was placed near the pavilion to suggest your presence." Lady Amelia shook her head. "I was in my room." Her maid's testimony of late-night pacing weakened her alibi, but Poirot suspected the bead was a plant, meant to mislead. The letter about the will change, found in the study, confirmed Sir Reginald's intent to disinherit Arthur and Evelyn, but also hinted at a past grievance with a servant. "A motive lies here," Poirot said, "one of betrayal long buried." Arthur's blackmail came under scrutiny. "Your debts, monsieur, were known to a blackmailer," Poirot said, producing the ledger. "Was it someone in this room?" Arthur's eyes darted to Clara, who flushed. "I never blackmailed him," she cried. Poirot's gaze lingered. Her financial desperation, tied to Sir Reginald's loans, made her a candidate, but her alibi with Arthur held barely. The cigarette butt near the maze placed Arthur near the pavilion, but Poirot suspected it was dropped to incriminate him. Mr. Graves faced Poirot's sharpest questions. The key to the garden shed, the scrap of his uniform, and his presence near the study all pointed to opportunity. "You resented Sir Reginald," Poirot said, "for years of mistreatment. Did you seek revenge?" Graves's composure cracked. "I served loyally," he said, his voice trembling. "I never touched the poison." Yet, his access to the pavilion's plans and the study's cabinet made him a prime suspect. Poirot revealed a new clue. A groundskeeper's log noting Graves adjusting a mirror near the pavilion the day before the murder, claiming it was misaligned. "A convenient excuse," Poirot said, "to set the stage for a false image." Mr. Thorne's journal, detailing nightshade sap, was another piece of the puzzle. "Your plants mimic the frog extract," Poirot said. "Did you substitute one for the other?" Thorne's scowl deepened. "I'm a gardener, not a killer." Yet, his knowledge of the hidden path and the mirror shard tied him to the crime's mechanics. Poirot found a sketch in Thorne's journal, showing a mirror angled to reflect the pavilion's interior, supporting the theory of a staged alibi. As the gathering drew to a close, Poirot revealed a critical insight. The mirror illusion not only hid the killer's approach, but projected Sir Reginald's image to suggest he was alive later than he was. The killer entered via the hidden path, Poirot said, placed the trick teacup, and used the vent to deliver the poison. The mirrors ensured no one saw them. The suspects gasped, accusations flying. Arthur blamed Clara's cunning. Evelyn pointed to Graves's secrecy. Lady Amelia whispered of Thorne's temper. Poirot silenced them, his voice firm. The truth is near, but one final veil remains. Hercule Poirot will lift it. Chapter 9. Final Deductions. The 7th day at Mirage Manor was heavy with the weight of an approaching resolution. The rain had cleared, leaving the air crisp and the Mirage Garden's mirrors gleaming under a pale sun, their reflections sharp as the truth Poirot was about to unveil. In the drawing-room, the suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Thorne, sat in a tense semicircle, their eyes fixed on Hercule Poirot, who stood before the fireplace, his small frame radiating authority. Inspector Japp, perched on a chair with his notebook open, watched with a mix of awe and impatience. "You've got the answer, haven't you, Poirot?" he said, his voice low. Poirot's moustache twitched, his eyes gleaming. "Oui, mon ami, the mirage is no more. The truth stands revealed." The investigation had been a labyrinth of clues and misdirection. The trick teacup with its hidden compartment, the hidden path in the garden, the forged note implicating Evelyn, the poisoned chocolates, the mirror shard, the vial in the pavilion's vent, and the scrap of Graves's uniform. Each clue had pointed to a killer skilled in deception, using the garden's illusions to mask their movements. The attempted poisoning of Evelyn had heightened the stakes, suggesting a desperate bid to silence a witness. Poirot's mind, methodical and relentless, had sifted through the evidence, aligning each piece into a coherent picture. Today he would lay bare the mechanics of the crime, leaving only the final revelation for the morrow. Poirot began with a deliberate pace, his voice calm but commanding. "Mes amis, this crime is a masterpiece of illusion, worthy of the Mirage Garden itself. Sir Reginald was poisoned in a locked pavilion, his teacup laced with a rare frog extract, delivered by a hidden compartment triggered by heat. The door was locked, the key in his pocket, the windows sealed. Yet the killer entered and exited unseen. How? Let us reconstruct." He held up the reconstructed teacup, its hidden compartment gleaming in the firelight. "This teacup was placed in the pavilion before Sir Reginald entered," he said. "The killer, knowing his habit of a nightcap, ensured the poison would release when the tea was poured. But how was it placed?" He turned to the hidden path, producing his sketch. This passage, known to Monsieur Thorne, allowed access to the pavilion's rear, concealed by a mirror that created a false image. The killer approached unseen using the garden's illusions. Poirot addressed the vial in the vent. The frog extract was dropped through the pavilion's vent, vaporizing into the air Sir Reginald breathed, ensuring his death. A tiny glass vial, found lodged inside, confirms this method, but the vent is high, inaccessible without aid. The killer used a tool, perhaps a pole from the garden shed, to place it. He glanced at Thorne, whose scowl deepened, and Graves, whose hands twitched. "Both of you had access to such tools," Poirot noted, "and the knowledge to use them." He turned to the mirror shard from Thorne's shed. This shard, etched with the pavilion's pattern, was part of a mirror, angled to project Sir Reginald's image after his death, suggesting he was alive later than he was. A clever trick to confuse the timeline. Thorne protested. "I used it for repairs." but Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. "Repairs, monsieur, or a stage for murder?" The groundskeeper's report of a shadow near the pavilion, reflected in a mirror, supported the theory of a staged alibi, with Graves's adjustment of a mirror the day before the murder raising suspicion. The forged note implicating Evelyn was next. "This was a red herring," Poirot said, holding up the paper. "The ink matches Monsieur Arthur's pen, but the handwriting is not his. Someone sought to cast blame, knowing Evelyn's strained relationship with her father." Arthur's face flushed, his cigarette forgotten. "I didn't write it." Poirot nodded. "Oui, but someone used your pen, perhaps to protect you, or to destroy another." Evelyn's eyes darted to Clara, whose theatrical skills could craft such a forgery, but Clara's expression remained impassive. The poisoned chocolates, Poirot revealed, were a calculated move. The toxin, a diluted form of the frog extract, was meant to frighten Mademoiselle Evelyn, perhaps because she saw something the night of the murder. Evelyn shook her head, tears welling. "I saw nothing." Poirot's voice softened. "Perhaps, mademoiselle, but the killer believes otherwise." The delivery boy's description of a tall male figure in a cloak pointed to Graves or Thorne, though Arthur's height was close. The scrap of Graves's uniform on the hedge, however, tilted suspicion toward the butler. Lady Amelia's pearl bead found near the pavilion was another misdirection. "It was placed to suggest your presence, madame," Poirot said, "yet your alibi, though weakened by your maid's report of pacing, holds." Lady Amelia's tears fell silently. "I wanted only to protect my children," she whispered. The letter about the will change, found in the study, confirmed Sir Reginald's intent to disinherit Arthur and Evelyn, but also hinted at a past grievance with a servant. Graves, perhaps? Arthur's blackmail complicated matters. "Your debts, monsieur, were known to a blackmailer," Poirot said, producing the ledger. "Was it Mademoiselle Langford, seeking to escape her own debts?" Clara's face paled. "I never blackmailed him." Her script, detailing a trick cup, suggested she could craft the murder weapon, but her alibi with Arthur held, if barely. The cigarette butt near the maze placed Arthur near the pavilion, but Poirot suspected it was planted to incriminate him. Mr. Graves faced intense scrutiny. The key to the garden shed, the scrap of his uniform, and his presence near the study pointed to opportunity. "You adjusted a mirror near the pavilion," Poirot said, claiming it was misaligned. "Was it to stage the illusion?" Graves's voice trembled. "I served my duty." Yet, his access to the pavilion's plans and the poison cabinet made him a prime suspect. Poirot revealed a new clue. A groundskeeper's log noting Graves carrying a pole from the shed the night before the murder. Suitable for placing the vial in the vent. Mr. Thorne's journal, detailing nightshade sap, was damning. "Your plants mimic the frog extract," Poirot said. "Did you use them?" Thorne's fists clenched. "I'm no killer." His knowledge of the hidden path and the mirror shard tied him to the crime's mechanics, but his passion for the garden suggested he would protect it, not defile it with murder. Poirot paced, his voice rising. The killer used the hidden path, placed the trick teacup, and dropped the poison through the vent, using mirrors to create a false alibi. The chocolates were a desperate act to silence a witness. But the motive? That is the key. He paused, his eyes sweeping the room. A past betrayal, a will change, a debt unpaid. Each of you has a reason. Tomorrow, I will name the killer. The suspects gasped, accusations flaring. Arthur blamed Clara's cunning. Evelyn pointed to Graves's secrecy. Lady Amelia whispered of Thorn's temper. Poirot silenced them, his voice resolute. "The truth is clear to Hercule Poirot. Sleep well, mes amis, if you can." Chapter 10. Justice in the Garden. The 8th day at Ushitoto, Mirage Manor dawned with a crystalline clarity, the sun casting long rays across the Mirage Garden, its mirrors reflecting a world stripped of deception. Hercule Poirot stood at the centre of the drawing room, his small stature commanding the space as if he were a conductor before an orchestra. The suspects, Lady Amelia, Arthur, Evelyn, Miss Clara Langford, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Thorn, sat in a semicircle, their faces a gallery of tension, fear, and resignation. Inspector Japp, stationed by the door, clutched his notebook, his eyes fixed on Poirot. "This is it, isn't it, Poirot?" he said quietly. "The grand finale." Poirot's moustache twitched, his eyes gleaming with certainty. "Oui, mon ami." The curtain falls, and Hercule Poirot reveals the truth. The investigation had been a masterclass in deduction, weaving together clues as intricate as the garden's mazes. The trick teacup with its hidden compartment, the hidden path, the forged note, the poisoned chocolates, the mirror shard, the vial in the vent, and the scrap of Graves's uniform. The attempted poisoning of Evelyn had confirmed a killer's desperation, and Poirot's meticulous logic had unravelled the illusions. Now he would present the full explanation, naming the murderer and laying bare their cunning. Poirot began with a slow deliberate address, his voice resonating in the silent room. "Mes amis, this crime is a performance, staged in the Mirage Garden, where mirrors and shadows conceal the truth. Sir Reginald Harrington was poisoned in a locked pavilion, his teacup laced with a rare frog extract, delivered by a hidden compartment triggered by heat. The door was locked, the key in his pocket, the window sealed. An impossible crime, yet not impossible for a mind skilled in deception. Let us reconstruct, step by step." He held up the reconstructed teacup, its hidden compartment glinting. "This teacup was placed in the pavilion before Sir Reginald's nightcap," Poirot said. "The killer, knowing his routine, ensured the poison would release when the tea was poured." He turned to the hidden path, producing his sketch. This passage, known to Monsieur Thorn, allowed unseen access to the pavilion's rear, concealed by a mirror that created a false alibi. He revealed the mirror shard from Thorn's shed. This shard projected Sir Reginald's image after his death, delaying discovery. Poirot addressed the vial in the vent. The frog extract was dropped through the vent, vaporizing into the air Sir Reginald breathed. A pole from the garden shed, used by the killer, placed it there. He glanced at Graves, whose face paled, and Thorn, whose fists clenched. Both had access, but only one had the motive and opportunity. He produced the scrap of Graves's uniform, caught on the hedge. "This places you near the hidden path, Monsieur Graves." The forged note implicating Evelyn was next. "A red herring," Poirot said, "crafted to divert suspicion. The ink matched Monsieur Arthur's pen, but the handwriting was not his." Arthur exhaled sharply, while Evelyn's eyes widened. Poirot continued. "The poisoned chocolates, meant to silence Mademoiselle Evelyn, confirm the killer feared her knowledge." Evelyn shook her head. "I saw nothing." Poirot's voice softened. "Perhaps, mademoiselle, but the killer believed you did." He turned to Lady Amelia's pearl bead. "This was planted to suggest your presence, madame, but your alibi holds?" Lady Amelia's tears fell silently. The letter about the will change, Poirot revealed, was critical. Sir Reginald planned to disinherit Arthur and Evelyn, but also hinted at a past grievance with a servant. He paused, his gaze settling on Graves. A grievance, monsieur, that drove you to murder." Poirot's voice rose, commanding attention. "The killer is Monsieur Graves, the butler. His motive is revenge, rooted in a past wrong. Sir Reginald ruined Graves's family years ago, bankrupting his father's business through ruthless dealings. Graves, serving in silence, harboured this hatred, waiting for his moment." The room gasped, Graves's composure shattering. "Lies!" he cried, but Poirot continued, unrelenting. "The method was ingenious," Poirot said. "Graves used the hidden path, known to him from years of service, to approach the pavilion unseen. He placed the trick teacup, crafted with his mechanical skills, in the pavilion during a routine check. The mirror, adjusted by Graves the day before, created a false image of Sir Reginald alive, delaying discovery. The poison vial, dropped through the vent with a pole, ensured death without entry." He produced the groundskeeper's log, noting Graves's use of the pole. "The scrap of your uniform, caught on the hedge, betrays your path." Poirot addressed the red herrings. "The forged note was your work, Monsieur Graves, using Arthur's pen to frame Evelyn. The pearl bead, taken from Lady Amelia's room, was planted to mislead. The poisoned chocolates were a desperate act to silence Evelyn, whom you feared had seen you near the pavilion." Graves's eyes darted, his hands trembling. "You have no proof," he snapped. Poirot smiled thinly. "The proof is in the details. Your uniform's thread, the pole's use, the mirror's adjustment, all point to you. Your resentment, confirmed by Sir Reginald's old business records, reveals a motive of revenge. You knew the pavilion's plans, the garden's secrets, and the poison's location. You staged the perfect crime, but Hercule Poirot sees through the mirage." Graves lunged to his feet, but Japp's constables restrained him. "He deserved it!" Graves spat, his mask falling. "He ruined my family, left us penniless." The room erupted. Lady Amelia sobbed, Arthur cursed, Evelyn clung to Clara. Thorne stared in shock. Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. "Justice, mes amis, is served." The garden's illusions hid the truth, but no deception escapes Hercule Poirot. As Graves was led away, Poirot addressed the others. "Monsieur Arthur, your debts must be faced, but not with lies. Mademoiselle Evelyn, your love is free now. Madame Amelia, your family endures. Mademoiselle Langford, your debts remain, but your innocence is clear. Monsieur Thorne, your garden is safe." Each nodded, their relief tempered by grief and guilt. Poirot stepped into the garden, the mirrors reflecting a world now clear. "The Mirage Garden," he murmured, "is a metaphor for the heart. Beautiful, deceptive, but not beyond understanding." He turned to Japp, who grinned. "You've done it again, Poirot." The detective bowed slightly. "The little grey cells, mon ami, they never fail.